And there's lots of women screaming out there, fat, like, well, no, I can't be eating fat.
Welcome to the Gym and Tonic Podcast, episode 4, with me, Tim Chase, and Chris is not here today. We fell out last week over the argument between Crocs, episode 2, traffic warden. So we basically fell out, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with me or the podcast ever again. Only joking. He should be back next week. We've just been very busy, and it's trying to align our diaries, which is a little bit tough. But I have the main man, Mr. Stuart from episode 2. What's going on, Stu?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, mate. I'm sweating it out. I'm in a different location, as you can see.
Yeah, this weather's a little bit. Betty Swallows is what comes to mind at the moment. So, yeah, I've been. Where have I been today? Just been in a boiler room. So 30 odd degrees outside, and I think it's about 57 in there. So I came out dripping.
50s. I think it's hotter out. I think it's hotter outside. And I was speaking to someone today in the gym, which was a stupid idea. And sorry, there's a parrot in this house as well. And I think this parrot swears as well. It might be Italian swear word, so I do apologise to any Italian viewers. But I was chatting to someone. We were just talking about how hot it is in England and how the heat here is just so different. It's literally like being in like a greenhouse.
Yeah, I think it's. I've read somewhere it's because we've got such a moist climate. So whenever it's actually hot, it's just so sticky.
It is. England is very moist. Yes, that's the take
That's the
from this.
definition of England. England is moist.
So, what have you been up to this week, mate? Have you been training at all?
Yeah, I've upped my training now, so it's sort of back to normal again. Obviously, I think in that episode I was on with you guys, we talked about rest pausing. So I'm probably a week away from literally just doing that the whole time. I'm training. Yeah, I'm training a little bit later today. Got legs to do today.
Oh, mate, I did legs this morning, and I haven't moaned about the heat once yet. Probably because I work in aircon, but I trained in Metroflex, which is like an old school bodybuilding gym. And as much as I loved the heat, I was dripping. And in answer to that question we had in that episode with you about is it better to train in the heat or is it beneficial, my productivity and the weights I was lifting were shocking, mate. Like awful.
It's too much. It just it mentally drains you because you're just thinking, I just can't do it.
You just can't be bothered. Like my feet were just slipping off everything, and it's almost an extra distraction. It's like when I wear headphones with wires. It's just that little extra annoyance.
Yeah. Like my gym, some of their aircon doesn't work. So if you've got a squat bar on your back, it just slips off. So you're just battling that most of the time as well.
Yeah, it's an extra element to deal with. So definitely, if gyms can get aircon, or if you can find a gym with aircon, then I definitely recommend it. So shall we introduce today's guest?
Yes, I'm actually really looking forward to speaking to this guy because there's a few things I want to ask him as well.
Yeah, you've never spoke to this guy, so we're going to be bringing on one of sort of London's top PTs, in my opinion. He's actually based out of my gym in South London, and he's got a very sort of successful PT business. And I'm kind of very intrigued to pick his brains about what he does with his clients and obviously what he does with his own training. So very exciting. So let's get him on, and hopefully he'll have some absolute knowledge bombs for us.
That sounds good.
Here he is.
What's going on?
Hey,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, mate, key perfectly. Sorry, we're laughing because I've got a parrot in the background.
Oh, no. That could be interesting.
Yes. How you been, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I've got like a nervous excitement. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. We were just saying we're looking forward to picking your brains. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is Mr. Lee Kelly. Lee, tell everyone who you are and a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been PTing now for around 3.5 years. Come from a completely different sector. Yeah, an office environment for like 10 years. I worked with a lot of women. Yeah, so I kind of understand a lot of women working in that environment, what they go through, the stresses, and I work with a lot of women now. So it's great. It's great, obviously, learning more about women as I'm training them. But I operate in the South London area and Southeast London areas. So in studio, gym, parks for boot camps, online. So I've got clients using my services in many ways. So yeah, that's basically me, and my business. But in terms of what I do for training, I'm very much focused on the strength element and gaining a lot of strength as opposed to like mass size, bodybuilding sort of thing. So, but we'll go more into that, I think, a bit later through the podcast.
That's perfect.
Yeah, this is Stuart, by the way. Don't know if you met Stuart.
How you doing, mate? You right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's I haven't quite watched your one yet. I need to.
It's the best one out there so far. It's the best one.
Yeah. So I've got a lot to live up to.
So today will be interesting because we've got Stuart, who's going to be doing his first bodybuilding show, and obviously you're a sort of strength power based athlete. So I suppose we want to sort of delve into you as a PT, because I know that me and Stuart both want to kind of find out a little bit more about what methods you use with your clients and sort of what clients you work with. So I know you've mentioned a lot about you work with a lot of female clients. So is this your sort of typical client, and what sort of age range do you work with, and how do you think working with these sort of females is different to working with maybe like, I don't know, males or competitors, or talk to us.
Sure. So working with women generally of all ages and fitness levels, although typically I'm working with women in their 30s and 40s, a handful in their 50s and even 60s. I don't tend to work with a lot of women in their 20s. I'm not sure why that is. Perhaps they're finding their feet a little bit in the gym environment. But I tend to work with women that have their head screwed on. Yeah, they've been through a lot of experiences in their life. They may well, be married, have children, that sort of thing. So what I'm seeing from women a lot of the time is this sense of empowerment. I think we see it in modern day anyway, but particularly the modern day training environment, gyms, you're seeing a lot more confident women using weights, perhaps getting involved in boxing sessions with their PT, which is great to see. But I mean, in terms of modern day 21st century, you just look around, you watch TV and you see sports women, really setting the standard a lot of the time, whether that be in boxing or football or rugby or tennis. You're seeing strong athletes, with a lot of mental and physical strength. And I think it's rubbing off on the general pop. I would say, obviously a lot of these women, they're not competing. Yeah, they're not competing for shows. So particularly from the nutrition side of things, because obviously, if you're bodybuilding on a show, the nutrition is so key, and staying consistent in that. There's an element you learn from bodybuilders, how they do things, and their consistency, and use them as exemplars in the industry and from my clients. But I would say the difference is that I like to, it's a process working with a lot of the general pop women out there. It's a bit of toing and froing. You have to have some flexibility because we all have social lives and pressures. So, and they don't have the pressure of going on stage. Yeah. So for them, that drive to stay consistently over a really long period of time may not be there. So you have to recognize that and not treat them like they're going on stage. Yeah, we have to have a bit of flexibility in there. But yeah, just you know, what a lot of like the methods I use is instilling you know, confidence in women, yeah, to you know, achieve something, you know, achieve performance, a certain level of performance in the gym and outside of it as well. Instilling, you know, some resilience there through knowing that they perhaps go through. I give them, you know, a good working, yeah, a good working, and that in itself, knowing you've had a hard session, and you get used to that, instills a level of physical resilience and mental resilience, yeah. Which I think, you know, the mental side of things is so important. Although I'll touch on this later, the differences between men and women, yeah. What I see, a lot of it comes from up there. But I'll touch on that a bit later. But you know, what the methods I use is trying to get them to recognise that they are strong women, and they've got a lot to give physically, and they need to recognise that. You need to keep drumming that into them, that doing the strength work will see far longer sustainable results than just jumping on a treadmill, which we used to see back in the day in gyms. You know, doing more strength work is going to get them to where they want to be, and that they can eat more. Yeah, their metabolism's going to go up.
That's the winning factor, mate. That is.
That's the winning factor. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of the women I come across, you know, they're starting to, you know, do a lot of strength training, as I said, and they're elevating themselves, you know, in many ways, and for both sexes in society today. You know, I see a lot of women as being the real role models, because not only do they have to contend with, you know, doing a training like what we would do, but there's also the time of the month. Yeah, that is a real thing. Yeah, we don't have to go through that. There's, you know, the hormonal balances or imbalances in some cases that can affect your training over a training block. Yeah. So
Lee, before we sort of take a sort of deep dive into that kind of
thing, cool. Yeah, I need to raise.
I know, Lee. I know Stuart wants to ask you a little bit about kind of your methods of training.
Yeah.
With females. But before that, you sort of touched on motivating your clients, empowering them, giving them confidence. What is it most of your clients are sort of training for? Because obviously it's not for power lifting competitions. It's not for competing. So for the three of us here, their goals are obviously very different to what we work with. And a lot different to sort of what a lot of my clients work with, and a lot of Stuart's. So what is it they're kind of training for, and how do you motivate them to achieve those goals?
Yeah. So the first one is your typical weight loss. Yeah. You know, it's a big thing amongst women stepping on the scale, and they think that they're overweight, or they think they're not quite the weight that they seem, which in itself causes a problem by continuing to think that the scale is a sign of progress. So we need to shift their thinking to start to recognize that a sign of progress is, yes, with a pinch of salt, the scale, but there's so many other ways that we can take a measure of progress, whether that be performance in the gym, you know, staying consistent with their food, tracking their food to a certain degree, hitting certain protein percentage in their macros. You know, as I say, gym performance, what works for me the most is when I'm with them face to face, is touching on those points, but just getting them to believe that they can do the things that I can tell them that they should be doing. And particularly when they're hesitant at first, they're like, I can't lift that. Well, actually, from the form that you've got, you can. Yeah, and it's getting them to recognise that they've got that in them. Yeah, and to keep drilling it. And if you take care of performance in the gym, and you know, it can transcend into other areas of their life. You know, so that's one of the methods I use.
Love it. Sorry, mate. I'm gonna have to mute my camera when you're talking because this parrot is
Okay.
literally, he's wolf whistling. Possibly the worst thing we could be doing on a female podcast. You're talking about, empowering women, and I've got someone going in the background. So I will mute it. Sorry.
Cool. So you do a lot of strength base yourself. So do you throw that towards how you train like all your clients, or do they specifically come with you with an actual, I want to train like this, or do you literally say no? Like how I do with some of my clients, I'll say like, no, this is how we're going to train. Obviously, if there's stuff you don't like, then we'll manipulate it to how something will benefit you. But you obviously have a strict regime of how you would actually train your clients.
There's no strict regime per se. I use the first 2 sessions to gauge like what makes them tick, or what's going to get them to commit to themselves, to the training, but then also to me. So I would try to explore many different training styles, but also their mobility to see where they are at. Because you can't just put them under a bar, get them to do deadlifts if they're like, if their mobility's all over the place. Yeah. So I think sometimes working them into that phase of training, but getting them to recognize that, like, it is a start, particularly if they're starting off, or, if we're looking to refresh, just saying, look, this is a progression. You start at this level. We may do more reps, lighter weight to start with, and we'll build you up to perhaps lifting heavier, shorter, in a shorter rep range. But then, if I find that that's not doing it enough, then sometimes you throw in the boxing element, and trust me, their eyes light up. It's like I've done something wrong. Yeah, they want to knock my block off, and particularly because I've got like the chest protection, they're really nailing me with the body shots, So it's sorry.
They just see red and they just go for you.
Yeah, that's it. So I kind of, I would like them to try my style of training, because not many people would, and they'd probably be scared of getting under the bar or using the bar too often. When I speak to a lot of my clients, particularly women clients, they want to stay on the machines. They want to, go on the cable, cable stuff. Like, there's lots of stuff you can use on a pulley system. So, try and instill a bit of confidence in them to use the bar, which obviously requires far more, thinking about what you're doing and controlling the movement. If they can master the bar, they can master any exercise in the gym. So I want to get them to start at a high level, not try and keep them on machines. I want to try and start on a higher level as soon as possible, so that it gives them a confidence that when they're on their own and they're not with me, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's taking just taking your all clients just out of that comfort zone. Because I know from personal experience, having clients, and they're like, oh, what have you done today? Oh, I just went on all the cable assisted. It's like, did you not squat? And they're like, oh, no, I didn't. I don't. It's a confidence. It's building that confidence. I know from when I started getting under that bar and then having something basically pushing you down to the floor and then thinking, am I going to come back up?
It's not like it, And I think with women, a lot of women come to me and they say about they don't want to gain lots of muscle tissue. They don't want to bulk. And there's this perception that perhaps lifting lots of weight will make them bulky, which obviously we know it takes years to build muscle. Yeah. But for women, it's just letting them know that by doing strength training, they're not going to necessarily gain lots of muscle tissue. What they will establish is obviously a greater mind-muscle connection, which I think, I'd imagine Tim is going to explore a lot more about that concept with perhaps some of the other people we know in other podcasts. But that, neurological adaptation, you can get stronger without necessarily gaining a lot of size, yeah, and looking, so you can say to them that you can do a lot of muscle toning and tighten up by doing some of these exercises under a bar, and probably more so, in terms of developing the core. I get a lot of women come to me saying they want to do core work and think like ab crunches are going to be the be all or end all when it comes to doing that. But actually, your squatting, deadlifting, overhead pressing, is working the core. You need a stable core. So I always say to them, before they build strength, they need to have great stability. And I think a great way of finding out how stable they are is getting them under a bar. To be fair.
Lee,
yeah.
Sorry, I'm off mute now. So I want to obviously go into that kind of common misconception about weights making you massive as a female, and also the common misconception about doing ab crunches for fat loss. But before that, can you give some advice to any sort of females watching this as to what they should be doing if they're watching this thinking, right, I want to drop some weight, I want to lose some body fat, I want to feel better about myself? Where do they start? Because we've mentioned strength training. So what would you recommend cardio and weight wise if they're just sitting here thinking, I have no idea, I'm going to go to the gym, how many days, what do I lift? What's your sort of advice for someone in that position?
I would say the first thing to start off with is nutrition. that is the first thing. Obviously, a good diet will fuel a good workout. And so I see a lot of women coming into their workouts, particularly if they're doing strength training, having eaten a banana or something and had a cup of coffee, or indeed nothing if she's had a bit of water. And, there is a place for that. But I think if you're going to do something, you're going to adopt a lifestyle, a training style, training method, follow a program, any program. You want to have enough in the tank where you think going into the gym, okay, the engine's full of petrol. It's going to really, I'm going to, put the foot on the gas. The revs are going to go up. I'm going to go through the gears. I'm going to really smash it. Yeah. And, it's getting them to think like that. Obviously, eating well does elicit body reductions in body fat and body weight. Yeah, we shouldn't starve ourselves going into the gym. That's for sure. Before doing strength work.
Cool. And then training wise, then, so when they get to the gym, what you kind of recommending that someone would do? Where would they start? I mean, are we talking just strength training?
Yeah. Not necessarily. I think as far as possible, I would, and I advise my clients to do this, is if they can do, a lot of female clients, they're used to doing HIIT, high intensity stuff, right? So whether that be online, like in a class, women love classes. But when they do the training on their own, it's to get them to recognize that their strength training coupled with doing some high intensity routines, say on a separate day. So they may well go on a curved treadmill, an assault bike, a ski erg, that sort of thing, really hammer it home and work in intervals, can enable them to have shorter training sessions. What I mean by that is the recovery time between sets could be a lot shorter. So when you're doing strength training, typically what you would need is somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. So if you can do more interval training coupled with your strength training, you can make your time more effective and efficient in the gym. So that's an area where I would start, is having a program that they understand, and I would take them through that as to why they would do short, fairly short, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, nothing too long. That's a system that they could look towards, and it still keeps them in the HIIT zone. They're still doing HIIT, So that's possibly an area. In terms of exercises, it's all dependent on the client and where they're at, and the assessments that we would go through. I think the sign of a good coach is to know how to progress them through a set of exercises. So, but get them to recognize where they can get to. like, and set that as a goal. So they've got something to reach for. They know that they're not just doing endless, split squats with kettlebells or whatever, sissy squats or lunges. It's for something. It's working towards something else. And so even, step ups, as boring as they are, they have a purpose, So that's somewhere I would start as well. I may well have gone on a tangent there.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm going back to where you said about having goals. What's the most regular, or what's the word? With, like, obviously your female clients, male clients, what's the most they're looking for? Like, is it, I want to be ready for holiday, or big, like, obviously weddings and stuff like that, like big events coming up?
Yeah, you tend to, we would set those as short to medium term goals, like an event to work towards. But I like to, first of all, quiz them about, like, what are they happy in their lives? How do they deal with stress? Life is stressful. Yeah, lockdown in particular, people are losing jobs, potentially getting made redundant after furlough scheme ends. There's all these things, and they've got families to manage. Women do a lot for the family. Yeah, us men, we get away with murder. Yeah, so there's there's things that we quiz them about, like, what are they genuinely happy in themselves, and, like, what can we do to make them feel like really fulfilled, like, in that they're accomplishing something and they're working towards something else, something that's bigger than simply an event. Like,
it's like something personal for them to feel, which, like obviously not just female clients, obviously male clients as well, where everyone has their issues going at home, but then when they know they're in the gym, it's just solely for them, and they can leave like yourself, myself, Tim, with a massive smile on their face, and that you've made their day.
Yeah, it's amazing. And to see, we'll touch on the difference between men and women perhaps a little bit more in a minute, because I do have to say something about men. Yeah, I've got something. I'm backing women. Yeah, I'm backing women on this one. Yeah, trust me.
So, Lee, to confirm then, so you want everyone to get their nutrition on point, then you want them to get in the gym, basically make it fit into their lifestyle, moving towards that goal. And I'm assuming, as what you and Stuart were just discussing, is kind of finding someone's sort of emotional hotspot. What's their kind of, their key driver that's going to make them want to get out of bed every day, make them get to the gym. So how kind of important is that mental strength? Because I know you touched on it earlier. How important is it for particularly female to have that kind of strength of mind to keep moving towards that goal?
Yeah, it's so important. Mindset is everything. It is. Mental health these days is so, like, everyone knows about mental health, and I wouldn't necessarily say women have more of the issues when it comes to mental health. I would say men do, because a lot of men don't speak up about it. But women in particular, I think this is what works well with women, and why I probably work well with women, is that we like to chat, right? We like to know what's going on. We like to share, like, what's happening in our day, like that sort of thing. And having that interaction, fitness has gone online, but nothing beats that one-to-one interaction with someone in person. You can pick up their body language. You can tell if someone's down. And I think it's so important for women to have that social interaction with a trainer. Yeah, because it's what keeps them going. And I think knowledge, information gets shared in those moments, but importantly, relationship building happens, and you really start to understand your clients a little bit more. But I think particularly for women today, as I said earlier, we're seeing women doing bits on TV a lot more these days, and they're setting the trend in a lot of areas. They're setting standards. And I think just providing that uplift to them on a daily basis in person is great. But I think yeah, the mentality walking into the gym is important. I mean, a lot of women over the years have congregated together and do training group sessions, but on an individual level, we're seeing far more stronger mentality from women, because they're happy to train on their own and get under the bar and do that strength work and not feel out of place, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's obviously so many topics you want to touch on, but I think this is a perfect opportunity now to kind of delve into that difference between the men and the women, as you literally just touched on it there, about the kind of mental strength of females potentially being stronger than males. And I don't think any of us could probably dispute that. So you're probably in a better position than me and Stuart to delve into this. So yeah, explain the sort of differences with not only the mental aspect, but also their kind of physicality in the gym, their mindset in the gym, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the differences between men and women, drum roll, all right? So this is a big question. And so I've leading into this podcast, you know, it was an interesting point amongst my clientele. You know, they wanted to understand what the differences with men were, and some of my male clients wanted to understand what the differences with women were. So it depends. There's that, you know, that old like cliche comment, you know, that it depends on the person. But I think if you look at the way in which the gym environment has evolved over the last 10 years or so, you know, you see a lot more women with trainers, or you see a lot more women attend group training sessions. So that tells you a lot about the mentalities of men and women generally in the gym environment. You know, it used to be men in the weight section and women in the cardio section. And in some ways it's still the case, but it's getting far more evenly spread now.
Why do you think that is, Lee?
I think because of that confidence issue, because of recognizing that when they see sportswomen on TV, when they see healthy looking women, yeah, because that's the important thing. Magazines in the past used to show a lot of very skinny women, yeah, which actually was a detriment to the way women viewed themselves. So they see strong women now and they think, how do I look strong and healthy? And they recognize that cardio is simply not the only thing that's going to get them there. Getting under weights and pushing some weights is really going to help them achieve that. And it's that look of health. You know, the magazines in the past, and perhaps we don't have many magazines that we read now. It's all on Instagram, social media. You know, you see a lot more. It's in your face fitness, and that's a good and bad thing. Good thing because it may incentivize people to go to the gym. A bad thing is that you still see a fitness industry that's represented by trainers or organizations that are not representative of society today. Yeah. But you know, differences between men and women generally, I think it comes down to both. I think women love a community and often seek support more often than men. They like to feel they belong to something, and that for them holds great value when they can be social with other gym goers, yeah, and share their stories and experiences. Yeah, sometimes I have to tell my clients to tone it down. We got to get on for a training session. Yeah, we can chat more after. But you know, that's you know, men tend to be more lone rangers in the gym environment, or they would train with other male friends, and through doing that, and perhaps they've been going to the gym for a long time, they start to think that they know how to do things, but very often,
this is it.
Very often, they don't know how to do it, and you know, they could use sort of some pointers. But a lot of men compared to women are afraid to speak to a trainer, because the gym industry is still majority men. Yeah, like you look at trainers, majority men. Another guy going to another guy and asking for help, sometimes they don't even know them, like, is not really, that's not the culture. It's either you're friends with this trainer or you're not. And so that can inhibit like men seeking help and pointers.
So true. I was going to say, from my experience, females are a lot more receptive to change. They seek advice. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to this, but a lot of men will go into a gym and it is all about the kind of ego lifting. And, we all know better. We don't want to seek advice. Whereas from what I've seen, a lot of females are open to say, I don't know what I'm doing. And can you help me? And quite often the women do know what they're doing. And they know a lot more than they let on. But I think they're open to change.
Yeah, I'll openly admit that, like, my partner, she's a personal trainer, and I couldn't RDL for shit.
Hey, where's the first one of the show?
Hey.
Like I will go to her for all advice. I've been around PT and fitness a lot longer than she has, but her knowledge and her form and stuff is phenomenal. I think a lot of the time with guys, and I think when you're younger, you'd always think, I'll go and ask the biggest guy in the gym because they must know what they're doing because they are the biggest guy here. But it generally does come down to the fact that, he might be the biggest guy, but he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just literally just slinging weights around.
Yeah.
And probably doing more damage to himself and then onto you than anything else.
Mate, there's no need to ask. Just bench. That's all you do when you're an 18-year-old lad. Just bench. That's it.
Every day.
And trust me, I think if you speak to men and women and their experiences at the gym, and you say, have you got injured, like recently or since you've been going to the gym? A lot more men have probably got injuries compared to women. Yes, they're probably lifting heavier weight, but they're probably lifting that heavier weight either lifting it too soon, they haven't earned the right to lift that weight with good form, or they're just all over the shop. Like they're just, the techers are just not unbelievable techers. That's basically it. So, a lot more women, I think, start off, I train, we start off light and we earn the right to move up in weight. And if we're not ready, we're not ready. And I think ego's left at the door. There is no ego. And that's the thing that Tim pointed out, that big thing men have to contend with are themselves up here. They think, last week I lifted that, I can lift it again. But if you've got no good nutrition and you sleep all over the place, you're not drinking enough, don't expect to be lifting the same amount each week.
How then, big question, how do you convince a female to lift weights? So you're going to tell someone that you need to lift weights to get to your physique goals or your strength goals or, get ready for your wedding or your summer holiday. How do you convince them to pick up that weight or get under that bar? Because they are going to think that they are going to get absolutely jacked.
It's true.
Overnight, mate. They're going to do one set of squats and they are going to literally just swell up.
No, it's it is true. It's something you have to fight with more often than you think. There's an element of being scared anyway to lift perhaps that weight. That's why they haven't typically done it themselves. And so, but I would say, first and foremost, because they've come to me for help, that in itself is like that's a sign to me that they're willing to accept what I prescribe them with. And so I don't need to convince them that much. Yes, I will have your comment, but they've pretty much already convinced themselves that it's the right thing to do. It's just convincing them that the weight that they can do, and with good form. That's basically it.
Yeah, because I think obviously social media has its good and bad sides to it. But I think there is now so many phenomenal female influencers that do a lot of weight-based training. And I think a lot of people will see, like a lot of females will see that now and be like, I want what she's got. You can see from if they're squatting 2 or 3 plates, they're going to be like, right, well, if that's how she looks, then that's how I'm going to have to build up progression, nutrition. And I think with a lot of like female clients as well, they do a lot more research than males do. They'll see how a girl that they look, a female they look up to looks like, and they'll be like, right, so if she's doing that, like, what nutrition she on? She might have apps and diet plans and stuff that are out, which I think is brilliant.
And I think if you convince someone that they can get abs, we've all got abs. Look, if you take away the layer of body fat we've all got, okay, you can take it down to a sufficient level, you've got abs. Yeah, you don't need to be doing lots of ab work to actually have abs. Yes, whether they're rock hard abs or not, yeah, it's a different story. But you know, we've all got abs, and so, but you can develop your core perhaps far more. You know, a lot of people have lower back issues. Yeah, so how are you going to strengthen that? Probably not so much from doing ab work or, you know, back extensions all the time. People don't like that stuff. Getting on the floor, it's too, like, it makes them sick. It makes them feel a bit ill. They're not ready, and it demoralizes them because they can't do a full crunch. Whereas if you say, look, you can do this very impressive looking move where you're using your whole body, or near enough your whole body. Using deadlifts, it will be pretty much your whole body, but you get more bang for your buck from that exercise. And so you would say, well, you're actually hitting two birds with one stone. And, you know, we don't have to focus on doing that ab stuff all the time. You can do it outside of our session. You can do it on your own at home. When you come to the gym, you do proper work. And I think they're more receptive to that.
So what is your top core exercise, Lee? If you had to choose one that people watching this could go and do themselves and put in as part of their regular routine, what would it be? Obviously not ab.
Yeah, so I would, if they're not training with me, particularly my clients as well, if I think about like one of my female clients out there, and this goes for men as well, but I don't usually do hip thrusts with them, but I would do hip thrusts with them. You know, sorry, I would give them hip thrusts to do at home or in the gym on their own. So that's one core exercise. But I don't know, my personal favorite is hanging. So I would get some wraps. Yeah, I would attach my hands to the bar. Yeah, and I would hang off that, and I would do some either weighted leg raises or straight leg raises. Oh. Yeah, or toes to bar. It's a tough one.
Very, very tough. Right, let's get on to some listener questions. I think some of these might be from some of your clients, Lee. You seem to have quite a fan following, I saw on Instagram.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so this question's from a Susan Della. She was asking how to combat weight gain around the tummy post-menopause.
Yeah, so I see this quite often with clients of a certain age. Yeah, so I think that what I tend to do first is just try and pinpoint exactly what they're eating. And their utilization of that food. So, you know, if we look at carbs, for instance, if you're consuming quite a lot of carbs and your metabolism is slow, then it could take, and you're not exercising enough, potentially, then you could be wasting the energy that you're getting from those carbs. You know, they're quite fast acting carbs as opposed to be, but if you've got slower metabolism, then, you know, you're not really going to be using it sometimes when you want to use it. So I would look at what they're eating and potentially reducing some of their carbs in place of fats, which are very, very good fats, by the way, which are very, very good for, you know, their hormone balance, keeping their hormones in check. And, you know, they are slow releasing food, energy releasing form of food in comparison to carbs. So if you've got a slow metabolism and a slower absorbing food into the system, then it could work well. They could work hand in hand. So it's something I've seen with clients that have gone from a higher, say 50% macro split is from carbs, going, say, reducing that to 20 or 30% and upping their fat intake. I've seen results from that. And even some clients are going through the ketogenic approach, which, you know, a diet is a diet. A balanced diet is great. You know, if for them keto works, that's fine. But I would go for not necessarily high protein, but a higher fat diet if possible. And there's lots of women screaming out there, fat, like, well, no, I can't be eating fat. But actually, it has its benefits, and there's a place in the diet. Sorry, what fats?
What fats? Yeah. So I just thought I'd just butt in with that one, because when you, like you said, it's quite a scary term, isn't it? Fat. I mean, what sources of fat are we kind of recommending to this sort of population?
It needs to be managed, because as we know with fats, it's like double the calories in comparison to carbs. So their consumption, what they look at on their plate, may be smaller to what they're used to, but the calories, you know, the foods that they perhaps swap in, they pack a punch with calories. So if you look at you know, your extra virgin olive oils, really good olive oils, yeah, which is something I would advocate doing. You look at the Mediterranean diet, they're one of the populations in the world that live longest, yeah? And there is a reason for that, because they have a lot of fats in their diets, yeah. But yeah, eggs, you know, some nuts and seeds, that sort of thing, I would advocate using those. And you know, you can even put, and this is something I've seen my clients do, and this is an option for them, is putting those oils, really good oils, in a protein shake, and then that's all you need to do, and it gives it a really smooth texture. But and that can be any protein shake. It can make it even the worst tasting protein shakes out there, the vegan ones, they are horrendous. But if my clients got to do it, they got to do it. They can make it taste a little bit better with a pinch of oil in it. But yeah, if you have to manage that, and avocado, you know, is a fan's favorite as well. I would steer towards those sorts of foods.
This is from one of our listeners, Sophia. Yeah. She was wondering who actually complains more, men or women, when they're training.
I've got her here, by the way. I've got her here.
All right. Okay.
You're not going to wait?
I can wave.
This is a new segment of the show where we actually get the listeners on. You've got to wave at least, because I look like I'm just talking to myself now.
You know, hello. Yeah. It's all nice things Tim says about you most of the time. Yeah, when he's not moaning. Not moaning.
Who moans more? Who complains more?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Yeah, I can't say who moans more.
Oh, you can't get the splinters, mate. Sit on the fence.
That's a tricky one. That one. That's dangerous territory.
Gun to your head, mate. No, actually, no. You're gonna lose part of your client base. Stuart,
yeah,
you've got to answer this one, mate.
You want me to answer this one?
Who complains more?
I do.
We'll go men. We'll go men. Let's just go that way. Much easier.
Yeah. I've got a question here where they were asking about your personal training style.
What my training style is. So yeah, I'm typically what I've been doing in the years is adopting, you know, training which elicits more muscle gain or it's in that strength endurance category. So not necessarily massive weight, but a fair enough weight, and trying to crack out a lot of reps, you know, doing supersets, drop sets, cluster sets, that sort of thing. A little bit of high intensity in there, done boxing in the past, but now currently I'm going into that powerlifting area, and I've actually employed a coach to take me through that. So that's what I'm currently doing. So focusing on the big 3 lifts at the moment, and that's the squat, bench, and deadlift, pretty much.
Wow. So what is the big difference then between your previous training and this new powerlifting? What are the main differences in your training styles?
So the main difference being that when I was doing weightlifting of a certain kind before, I didn't really give too much consideration to my mobility. So if you want to lift big weight, which you do in powerlifting, you need to be able to engage those muscles that should be working as much as you can. So if you get into a deadlift, you need to be able to engage those glutes and those hamstrings as much as you can. We quite often engage our quads when we do leg work, but when you're getting into sumo or conventional deadlifts and you're lifting a ton of weight, you need to be able to do that with perfect form, because it's going to, for injury prevention, but for getting that lift, and it's in the hardest part of each of those lifts, whether it's at the bottom of a bench lift, at the bottom of a squat, or when you're picking that weight dead from the floor. It's a dead weight. Either the first phase on a deadlift or the second phase on a squat or bench, you need to be able to get those muscles engaged and working in unison with each other. So, but mobility work is really going to help there. And my coach is steering me towards focusing on that a lot more in between sessions. So as part of a recovery process, doing my mobility work, doing my stretches is one of the big things. But also, as I mentioned, weight is key. Powerlifting, you're only looking at max 5 reps, max 5 sets. Even if you go lower than that, you're basing it on an RPE rating, so rate of perceived exertion, or percentages of your 1 rep max. We quite often don't go into doing 1 rep maxes. It's often quite dangerous. So you would estimate it, and it's better to go at a lower estimate than a higher estimate, because you want to avoid overtraining, doing something too soon. But there's a real focus on getting the most out of those reps that you've got, and doing perfect form all the time. And previously you just want to reach a certain rep because you did it the week before. It's like I'm trying to get my volume up, and sometimes that's the wrong way of thinking in powerlifting. That's for sure, because if you're not feeling it, then don't try and attempt it. Come back to it next week.
So Lee, just staying on that topic of your the big 3, what's your top tip on obviously increasing strength in those areas?
So top tip.
Break it down maybe, Lee. Maybe go through each 3 individually and just give us a couple of
for sure. So let's start with the bench. So a top tip for that is to understand where you press from. When I see people doing bench work, sometimes they're pressing up too high on the chest and it's too shoulder dominant. So we're not getting you want to look at the alignment of your elbow to the bar. Your elbow needs to be right under that bar, so that when you press from your chest here, and you're keeping your elbows kind of tucked in, not too much tucked out. It is dependent on the lifter, but you want to try and get your triceps and shoulders to work as much as possible in that bench. You'd be surprised, doing bench work in a powerlifting sense, it's not necessarily dependent on the strength of your chest. It's dependent on how your triceps and shoulders are working together in that pressing phase. It is far more focused on the triceps. If you've got strong arms, you can be a good bencher, and you've got strong shoulders. You don't necessarily need to do lots of flies, lots of chest work, although it does help, but whatever chest work you do, you'd want to try and mimic what you do on the bench. So you try and keep the same sort of form, whether you use a machine or a free weight like a dumbbell. But yeah, top tip is look at the alignment of your wrist, elbow in relation to where you're pressing from. So if you can get someone to look at you from the side and above you, then you want to try and keep your shoulders down as much as you can. Don't press with your shoulders up. Yeah, try and keep your shoulders down and press out from, say, just below your nipple line. Yeah, so you're almost touching the top of your abdominals. Yeah, almost touching from there. And you're pressing out from that way. We don't want to go too high up.
Do you have to bend your back like an absolute animal, like an absolute bridge?
Yeah, I mean, it is dependent. If you're doing a lot of squats and deadlifts, then, you know, your ability to arch that lower back can be compromised because you're using a lot of your lower back in those lifts and you're having to keep it in a certain position. And some of us just don't have that arch. But what you can do is still create stiffness in the back. Obviously, doing bench work, I mean, one of the key things, if you want to be able to develop your strength in bench, then you need stability from the back. So having a strong, stable back is probably more important than having super strong triceps or super strong shoulders at that point. That will come as you bend.
Got ya.
Yeah. So the squat, with the squat, finding your stance. So first tip I would do is get yourself on a box, and not too high up. Get yourself on the box, jump off it, do a proper landing. So soften the landing. So you go into you land into a squat position. Don't just stand there with like your knees kind of straight and jarred, and you end up jarring your leg. Avoid hyper extension of the knee. But you want to see where you land, see where your feet land, and then that is often your body telling you your strongest position in regards to a squat. So that would be your strongest position, but you can use other stances to develop your weak areas as you start to progress on your strongest stance. Always focus on your strongest stance first, and then as you progress and you get heavier and heavier in powerlifting terms, the heavier you go, the more your weaknesses come to light. So you can only really understand what your true weaknesses are through pushing yourself in your strongest position. Once you understand that and you have someone look at you, or even if you video yourself and you look at it at a later point, so important you analyze your lifts. You can then work perhaps on doing a wider stance if you need to perhaps work on your adductors or your glutes a little bit more.
Nice.
In terms of deadlift, the deadlift is a tricky one. I would say out of the three, I'm quite happy to say this, it's my weakest lift. I don't know why. I think it's just I can't seem to get as much out of that exercise in comparison to the bench or the squat. But some of the tips I would say is to make sure that bar is as close to your center of mass as possible. Like with the bench, you want to move that bar in a straight line. Yeah, so the most efficient way for that bar to move is in a straight line. You may not get a perfect straight line, but you get as close to it as you can. And so getting yourself as close to that bar, when you pull that bar off the floor, with ideally a bumper plate. So try not to do deadlifts with some mini plates, like 1.25 kg either side, lifting it literally off the floor, just about getting your fingers under it. You know, you want to put a bumper plate on, so it sets the bar at the right height on your shins. So you've got the correct lifting position. But yeah, you want to try and make sure, if you video yourself from the side, make sure that you're not bending your knees too much. So you're not doing a quad dominant deadlift. Try as much as you can to engage the hamstrings and the glutes. And so what you need to do is practice hip hinging. So RDLs may be a good point for that before you do proper deadlifts. And the next point. Oh, let me get it. The next point, yeah, on the deadlift is to make sure that you're squeezing the bar as much as you can. So you want to try and bend that bar in half. You engage the lats, but you have your hips and your shoulders rising at the same time, not a jolt with the hip and then bring your shoulders up. They need to be moving working in unison, working together. So when you're taking that bar from the floor, press into the ground, push away from the ground, but then when you get it halfway up your leg, so halfway up your shin, sorry, and it's just about to go over your knee, then you bring the hips and the shoulders up together. That's so important. And keeping that bar close to your center of mass as possible. Okay, so invest in some socks, good socks, protectors, shin protectors if need be, because you're likely going to have skin coming off your shins because you're doing what is required in a deadlift, and that is to keep it as close to you as possible. So they're my on those lifts.
Right, I'm just trying to write them all down, mate, so that I can start in my game. That is amazing advice. Love it. I'm going to listen to that all back and put it into practice myself. So now I'm guilty of a lot of those things and not doing them properly. So the final listener question before we sort of wrap the show up is how much can you bench? And that is from Tim Chase Fitness.
All right. Okay.
What's your lifts? What's your kind of biggest estimated 1 rep max at the moment? Because they're going to be a lot more than mine and probably Stuart's. So
yeah, you'd be surprised. They're fairly modest. I'm not lifting what I was prior to lockdown, but before lockdown, in terms of a 1 rep max, I've always gone to reps of 5. So I've got 5 rep max.
Yeah, go for 5. That sounds.
5 rep max. So I was on a 5 rep max on my squat for 180. And so I want to get that up to 200. I want to join a 200 club. The deadlift is a little bit less. You're on about 170 there, 180 at a push. I've done 190, one rep and 200 before, but they're on good days, not necessarily with good form. And then my bench, I was up to around 135 for reps. Reps on that. But I want to, in terms of lifting goals, I say they're fairly modest goals, but I want to join a 200 club for reps on both the deadlift and the squat. I'm not far away on my squat, but then also with this year, by the way, by the year end, I want to get 5 rep maxes on 200s on both, and then on the bench, get myself up to 150, 155 if possible.
Nice. So we've just contradicted ourselves. So for anyone watching, it isn't about ego and it isn't about how much you lift. But the good thing is that Lee's got his own personal kind of journey. You know, you're trying to always improve your own lifts. So I was just fascinated to see kind of what you were shifting, because, you know, sure. Some impressive kind of lifts. So let's kind of almost wrap it up now. We've got the most popular part of the show, which I hope you're prepared for. It is the in the bin section. So
yeah, sure. I've been thinking about things.
Yeah, last week we had Crocs versus Traffic Wardens versus episode 2.
Yeah, we might have to have a little chat about that as well.
Yeah, I think Crocs is winning. That's why Chris isn't on, because we fell out over this. So, do you want to go first as the guest?
Yeah, so I would say, well, my girlfriend's a dog walker, right? So I often do walks with her sometimes, and when I see dog owners taking a big dog out and not picking up their shit, it is rather annoying. So I want them to put that in the bin.
I thought you were going to say when I see dog owners, I thought you were going to say taking a shit.
Well, and that, you never know. You never know. They're probably, you know, if they're lost in the woods somewhere and they're not, you know, they're quite far from the toilet, I wouldn't be surprised from that actually happening. Mate,
that has to be the most annoying thing ever, especially when you then stand in it.
Oh, yeah. It's worse. World's worse. So, yeah, that. Some of the dogs, like, what the shits you see, you think, has a human actually done that? Because it's fucking massive. Anyway.
I wonder they're not picking them up, mate. You got to carry this steamy turd around for the next hour.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my in the bin. That's for sure.
You gonna? All right, I'll go. So
Yeah.
related to Lee's one, related to these steamy turds. I was having a coffee today. It sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? And there was just flies, just everywhere, and that just flies. That's all I'm going to say. Just buzzing into my head and landing on me. Just get in the bin.
Yeah.
Flies in general. I don't know the purpose of them. I don't think there is a purpose. They can just do one.
Agreed.
I'm going to go with no aircon in
Oh,
house. Because I haven't slept for like 5 days.
That's big errors.
So I think the government should give us a aircon when it goes over a certain degree.
just free aircon for everyone.
Free units for everyone.
I'll show you what I'm dealing with in terms of air conditioning in my household. I'll show you. This little thing. It's the most. It's the biggest fan you'll ever see in your life. That's for sure.
I might have a bigger one.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
Hey.
It's not all about size, Stu.
I use it.
I think in that sense, there'll be a lot of females listeners out there. When size matters is when you look at someone's aircon or their fans. That's when size does matter.
Right. So what were the three? It was steamy turds not being picked up by dog owners.
That's it.
Flies.
Guys.
And the fact we have no aircon.
So comment below which one you want to do one and put in the bin. Right.
Yeah.
Final part. Quick fire 5 for you, Lee.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, we were going to get rid of this, but it's quite fascinating.
It's all right. No, it's fine. You can really find out about someone through their response to these questions.
These challenging questions. Number 1, favorite alcoholic drink.
Favorite alcoholic drink must be a Desperado if I'm looking to get absolutely steaming.
Favorite food.
So favorite food has to be Caribbean. You cannot beat a good old jerk chicken.
Nice. Favorite body part to train or exercise?
I would say favorite body part to train has to be legs, because I haven't had really big legs in the past, so I want to get them big. So there's my favorite ones at the moment. Yeah. And what your favorite exercise?
Oh, yeah, go on then. Favorite leg exercise then.
So favorite exercise would probably be the bench.
Cool. Dream job? If you could do any job, what would it be?
Or to perhaps to run my own gym in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one.
And what's your favourite music to train to? And can you give us 2 songs for the G&T playlist that I'm going to put on Spotify when I pull my finger out?
For sure. So, favourite genre definitely is the the party vibes, house music, techno, that sort of thing. But what the 2 songs I would listen to in the gym are one being, it depends what mood I'm in, but if I'm looking for that gritty workout and shutting myself off and I'm going to a really gritty gym, then probably a hip hop and rap, and that's All Eyes on Me by Tupac. Yeah.
Nice.
So, and that's the actual tune from his album, All Eyes on Me. So that one, and then the thing that really gets me amped when I'm in the gym is a song by Scream called You Know Right. Yeah, so get that one on the Spotify. It's going to be big, trust me.
We're going to all up our bench, squat and dead.
Yes, from those tunes.
We're
Come back
to
to
one.
Yep.
Right. Final question for you before we shut this show down. What is your top tip for living a healthy, happy life? What would you say people can take away?
Love yourself before you can love others. Okay, so that is a soundbite. Take that from the session today. You know, a lot of women that I train, you know, they're starting to love themselves a lot more, and that is transcending into other areas of their life, and it's great to see. So love yourself and believe in yourself.
Perfect. So Lee, where can people find you, mate? Where can they hit you up for your coaching services, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. So there's my website, BeFreeFitness.London. There's my Instagram feed, so social media accounts on Instagram and Facebook, and at BeFreeFitnessLondon on both of those channels. All right.
Amazing. Well, anything from you, Stu, before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's everything, mate.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lee, for coming on and dropping so many knowledge bombs. I've got a lot to process now. There's a lot of stuff going on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
And Stu, thanks for obviously for joining me today.
No, that's fine, mate.
And we'll let Lee wrap it up, mate, before I hit stop.
Yeah. Take care, guys.